Hello, it's Ileana and welcome back to my scrappy alcove, from which I will be releasing, hopefully, 12 separate layouts of the 12 Days of Christmas, a challenge that was set way back at the beginning of December by the Victoria Marie Facebook group to use different elements in our scrapbooking each day for the 12 Days of Christmas. And so I'm using here some cardstock with some slight polka dot bumps in it, and that's actually from my quirky kit. That's the only piece I'll use from my December quirky kit, and the rest is from my own stash. And I thought to myself, oh, I'd quite like to try one of these 8.5 by 11 inches layouts, as I've seen some inspiring ladies do. But when I came to measure up, I forgot all about that, and I did it as 9.5, so it doesn't fit the proper dimensions at all. Still, it's a rectangular layout, and I just thought I wanted to try that for a change rather than the square traditional 12 by 12s. And I've used some very old cut apart printouts. Well, actually, it's something that my mum gave me a long time ago, and I've had it in my Christmas cubbyhole, and really it's been left undisturbed for what looks like 10 years. But it hasn't been as long as that in my stash, really, but it has been for quite a long time. And the challenge on this one was to use twine, and I thought, well, why not use some fake twine as well as some real twine? And so this one's already pre-stitched. Well, it's not real stitching at all, but I've tried to make it look a bit like real stitching by cutting out some of the threads that look to be lying loose around the edge, but that serves a dual purpose for me, because this was actually the first picture I ever printed with my new selfie that my husband treated me to just before Christmas, when he looked at one of my layouts aghast at the poor quality of the picture, and he decided that it was time I had something pretty to print my pictures with. And I'm not quite used to the functions on this selfie, and although the pictures aren't amazing, and I'll tell you in a moment what they represent, they're of my boys, and Lorenz's face, had I actually cut ripped the selfie down the edge as I should have done, I would have cut into his eye. So actually the perforation cuts down the edge of his face, and you can't really tell on this on camera, but in reality you can see how the perforation lies, but I still wanted to keep his face in, so the actual the loose bit of thread, as it were, from the background paper kind of goes over his face to try and hide the fact that it printed badly on the edge. Anyway, I'm rambling on. So the picture is actually of Elias in the foreground, Lorenz in the background, at home, and it's just before shower time, and Elias is wearing his daddy's old jumper, which his daddy would have worn, and we discovered these lovely items of clothing about probably 5.5 years ago, when Dave's parents had their loft refloored and pulled out some of the old boxes and discovered their old clothes. So actually we've been getting very good use out of these items, and the quality is amazing. I think this would have been a St. Michael's jumper or something along the the lines, and I think that was a brand used by Marks and Spencer's back then. Very long-standing shop. Anyway, gorgeous little jumper that he was wearing, and sadly probably the last time, since our boys are growing older and getting bigger all the time. But those clothes have been really, really fun to use. So onto the layout again. It's really quite a simple construction for me. Slightly too symmetrical, and it's all right. I don't mind the way it's turned out. It's quite nice. I've kind of kicked a few of the elements off to the edge. But it's a very safe layout as far as I would call it. It doesn't use any mixed media, and it's just quite plain, but I think effective. And I love how it's used up some of the older elements, and some of even the twine that I have, the real twine I've used is really old, back from the days of where I dabbled with a bit of jewellery making, and so I had that hemp twine for a long time. And the reason that some of it's already cut off is I think the boys were making yogurt pot telephones with it or something, and so I've kept back the twine from that, repurpose it all the time. So these little pegs going down just for some some interest in the corner there. I've got loads of these wooden pegs, and I have seen some people, to stop them being so bulky, actually break them apart and just have the tops. But I decided that it wouldn't be too much trouble to just peg them on as real pegs. And so that's what I've done, and I've wrapped some twine about that in a little moment. And I'm kind of speeding through where I cut anything out, and this is some tartan ribbon I think I'm going for here as all part of that same sheet, that printout. Have a go with trying to incorporate everything from that print apart sheet, and it says the weather outside is frightful, and it just didn't really work with the layout, and in fact I don't think I'll ever use it, so lovely as it is, it doesn't work for my project here. Having a go at tying the bows, and I don't really know what else to say about this wonderful layout of mine. The two little mittens down there are really cute. They look like they've been stitched as well, and you'll see me work on those in a minute, because they're two tags, and the way I've decided to use them is to kind of lay them one over the other, and I pull out my crocodile for that purpose, which is seldom used these days, so it is nice to get some use of old tools in the making of scrapbook pages. So I'm just going to play around with placement for those tags in a minute. I will actually place them to the left. First of all, trying to have a go with the paper piercer, and then I realised that to give it a bit more pizzazz I would use an actual, what are they called? They're not brads, are they? I suppose eyelets. And so I'm going to make the hole with this really huge machine for a tiny little job, but it's the only crocodile I have. I didn't have the proper little handheld one. This comes from the days of my mini book making. I think I may have mentioned that in a previous video. And I'm now tying in some twine to get good use of that for the layout, which was the challenge. And of course it's a very old challenge. This was set way back in the beginning of December. And there were different challenges, really fun to play along with just one kind of expectation, if you like, to kind of pull on the theme for each of the 12 days of Christmas. And as I've mentioned, this one was twine that's so divine, and I really like hemp twine. I think it's got quite versatility about it. You can use it, and it looks really attractive on many different layouts. So I should probably be incorporating that a little bit more in future, I should imagine. And some lovely alphas there from Hobbycraft with Christmas theme. So I've used both colours, the red for the word daddies and the kind of newsprint one for the word jumper. And you'll see me lay that down in a moment. And this this kind of foam tape I found in our local pound shop, and it's really strong adhesive on it, but the only thing is that green tape on the back is terrible for it. It's got static on it, I can hardly remove it from my fingers once I've tried to peel it off. Anyway, you can't see me struggle with that because I sped that bit of video up, but I just wanted to lift that background, that big the photo cluster as it were, off my layout to give it more dimension as you do. And to make the gold look as though it extends across the whole width of the page, I will be cutting that in just a moment as well to make it look like one long strip underneath the tartan ribbon there. And it looks really quite convincing as real ribbon when you see it on the page. But it is just paper, obviously. You and I know that, but anyone looking at my layout in future might be mistaken for thinking it's a real piece of ribbon. So there you see the trick of the trade, where you separate out one strip with a gap in the middle that you know is going to be filled by something on top, so you can never tell. I've got loads of gold cardstock. It's not like I really need to be frugal, save for the fact that I didn't see the point in cutting into any more when I could just do the trick. And I think at the beginning of this layout, if I remember, I had the tripod leg down the edge, and you might have seen me slide that up. or is it the next layout? But anyway, I have developed a little trick to just have the tripod on 2 legs and hide that 3rd leg, and you might wonder how I managed to balance a tripod that needs 3 legs to balance with, and that is because I've craftily tied up the top of the tripod to one of my shelves above, so it's just propped up on 2 legs. And it's a very strange construction if you ever were to see it, and I wouldn't recommend it necessarily because it does leave the camera quite precariously balanced, but I couldn't bear the shadow anymore, so it's working for me actually. And here I go with my kind of copper pigment dye, pigment ink there, just to stamp down the date a couple of times, or in fact I've just gone for once. One safe 13th of December on this layout. And I discovered that as I started to use that gold pen, it was really yellow. So I found one of my old Sakura pens instead. Those kind of jelly roll pens. And I'm amazed at how long they have lasted. Years, really, probably a decade. And so I'm blotting off the yellow E for Elias. And I'm going with the kind of more coppery colour Sakura pen to write my journaling, which states... Elias and Lorenz, we have loved dressing you in the clothes your daddy used to wear when he was small, but you are both growing older, so this may be the last time for you, Elias. And at this point, I would just like to say thanks so much for watching another one of my videos, and if this is your first one, well, I do look forward to seeing you again for some more in the future, as I'll be rolling out the other 12 days of Christmas in January. Thanks for watching for now. Bye bye!